Welcome, Sam, to our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Super excited to have you here.
Awesome. Same.
Awesome, awesome. Let's jump right into it. So, can you introduce yourself and just kind of provide a brief background on your musical journey?
Okay. I'm Sam Abate. Grew up here in Tucson almost my whole life. Let's see, music. I play drums and do vocals, primarily drums. Started playing music in middle school. Started my first bands early high school. And then from there, basically was usually in one or two bands for like the last like 20 years basically. So I've been in probably 10 or 11 different groups now, released music, like a demo tape, some, a couple songs recorded with each one. So I've been doing it a long time, different styles of music all over the place, kind of. But yeah, that's been like a huge part of my life for a long time now.
Awesome. And so, what got you into music, right? So, why not other outlets of creativity? Why music?
It's a good question. I think in a way, kind of some stuff just like you just gravitate to when you're younger. There's a lot of music got played in my house. My dad was huge on that. We had a big stereo system, and like we always had loud music going at the house. So I think early on, I kind of gravitated towards that, and drums were something that just kind of like felt a little bit. I tried out other instruments actually before drums. I played guitar for a little while when I was real little, and I wasn't good at it. It didn't really stick. It didn't really make that much sense to me. Trumpet, I tried trumpet, oddly enough, but like drums was like always kind of there. My uncle had a drum set, and I would just bang on it when I would go over to my aunt and uncle's house, and I don't know. From there, it just stuck. Like, just got into drums, got a drum set, and then had friends that played guitar, played bass or keyboards. Pretty soon after, just started trying to write original music. I didn't find playing like other people's songs all that entertaining. I was more like wanting to write
Right.
my own material, basically.
Okay. So would you say then, do you think your uncle then kind of had an influence then? 'Cause I know you mentioned that he had his drum set and that when you'd go over you'd play, but do you think he played any other like key part into you really, I guess, taking it more serious of not just like, hey, this is fun, but like, what can I do with this?
Um, Maybe just exposing that like it was just very attainable. Like he had a drum set in a guest house. Him and his friends jammed and occasionally played gigs. And it wasn't like this unobtainable thing. It was just like he did it. It wasn't even something that like that's not the first thing he's gonna tell you about himself was, "Oh, I'm a drummer," kind of thing. It was just like so I think in that sense it made it something like, "Oh yeah, just play drums," you know? Like,
Right.
I don't know, it made it very, like, approachable, but I wouldn't say that he individually, like, pushed me to play drums or anything like that. I was just lucky my parents were supportive of me just trying stuff, but I can't say there was, like, one person that was, like, kind of, like, got me to do it
Right.
or even showed me, like, he didn't show me anything actually, like, I never, like
Okay.
he didn't show me the ropes, he helped me get my first drum set, so that
That's
was
cool.
big. But yeah, he didn't show me how to play. I taught
Right.
myself how to play
Right.
basically. So
That's awesome. Okay. At what age then do you think you really started taking it more, I guess, serious, for lack of a better word, more just like, hey, let's make this more than just a hobby?
pretty quick, like 14, 15.
14, 15.
It's
Okay.
like middle school. I started going to shows. So I started to see a lot more live music and a lot of young people, like small shows, just
Right.
like punk shows and stuff like that. And then 14, I'm finally getting like decent at drums. And then 15, start like the first real band. And I played with some people that were just a little bit older, not a lot older, like maybe 17. And I think they played in like church band and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they got the experience just like playing, performing regularly. And then we started writing original music and we started playing shows like pretty quick after. Like I think we wrote enough songs, like five, six, to play live, played live, and then like pretty quick after it was like, all right, let's do a CD. CDs were a thing at the time. We'll do a CD. We'll go play shows. First it's just Tucson. Trying to play
Right.
wherever we can, and then we quickly realized like, all right, we can get a van, contact people, and that's when it got serious. When it was starting to leave Tucson and
Mhm.
play, I was like, all right, let's do this more. Like this is sick. We can do this. And then you just start putting more and more energy and effort into it.
Okay. So, do you still play with that same group today, or have there
No,
been any members that
no,
changed?
none of those people actually from the first
Oh,
band do I play music with. Um, a couple of them I played with for quite a while. Um, but yeah, it's actually kind of funny. Like I haven't played with any of them in at least 10 years.
wow. Okay.
So we went our separate
Right.
ways. A couple of them still play music. One of them plays like that's his career. It's
Okay.
kind of funny. He's actually one of the Ronstats,
Oh,
which so if you know like Linda Ronstadt, like their
okay.
family is really really big here, and they're all great musicians.
That's
So
really
I
cool.
was lucky. I got to play with him early on. His dad played on like some of Linda's records and stuff like that. So like again, they didn't really like guide us or anything, but
Right.
it was just like, oh yeah, this dude I know from church like is on like a gold record.
Right.
Like
That's
it's
really
like
cool.
okay, like
Funny they mentioned that I actually just got one of her pianos,
oh
like, not
really?
that long ago. They're
Sick,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, it's famous Tucson player." I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool,
Yeah,
actually."
once you're in Tucson long enough, there's a Ronstadt connection somewhere.
Right?
So yeah,
Exactly.
it's funny, but yeah, I think I mean just like I was like, oh yeah, that's Linda's brother. Like
Right.
it just makes it so approachable when
Right.
you see it from that end. But no, I don't play with any of them anymore.
Okay. So how would you describe then your band now?
Band now, let's see. Um, the one I'm working with again right now is actually the one that's been around the longest now. So me and my friend Ryan, we started band called Territory in 2010. So it's been a while now, um, and it's like it's metal, punk, death metal type stuff. So it's heavy. Um, I usually we write it just as a two piece, guitar and drums. We'll write the songs, and then live I actually sing in it. And typically the recordings, even though I write the drum parts, it's usually we bring in someone else. They add their flair to it, but like the structure of the songs is going to be me and him, and we've been doing it for a long time. And it's just like it's kind of like our baby. Like
Okay.
we're like we're never going to say we're broken up. We go through periods where we're
Right.
inactive, but it's like because it's just us two.
Right.
There's no reason ever to be like it's done. And I guess unless we stop being friends, but
Right.
I don't
Right.
see that happening. So
Cool. That's good. So, how did then you and your buddy come together, right? To just get to that point where like, hey, you know what? Let's try this out. Let's try traveling a little bit. Let's try, exploring different avenues.
so with the current one, I had done some touring again. I never did like a lot of it, but like over the course of the years, like a couple months worth of shows, like
Mhm.
just out and about, mostly like West Coast stuff. And so I had some experience doing that, put out a couple records, and then he's a little bit younger than I am, but I just knew him from shows. Like he would
Okay.
come see my bands play, and he was really interested in recording and a good guitar player, and just our musical tastes. We just connected over time. And then it was one of those things. It's usually like most bands like this are like, dude, we should do a band like this. And that's how like I've had that conversation like a million times with people.
Right.
I've done it, other people have done it to me. Usually nothing comes of it. It's just like, dude, we should do this. And
Okay.
it's like but this is one of those things we kept talking about it and then we just got together and just like messed around
Okay.
and we clicked and now we've written a lot of songs together. We did other bands together as well. So I don't know. I mean, you just kind of you find those people that it feels natural with.
Right.
So like, there's a lot of. I mean, you play music. There's a lot of like unwritten or unspoken cues that you pick up
For sure.
on.
For
And
sure.
if you play with someone that you connect with, like you don't have to use words a lot of the time.
Right.
It's just like you can like look or like they just know,
Right.
you just pick it up. So when we write together, it's not like this like laborious thing where we're spending a bunch of time just like really going at it. Honestly, the vast majority of the material I've written with him, we write like super fast.
You can just pick off and build off of each
Yeah,
other.
and
That's
then
awesome.
just like tweak it from there. But
Right.
like the structure of the song is usually like 15, 20 minutes. Like
Wow.
we're just like that, and then it builds. We'll change stuff, but
Right.
yeah, it's never like we were in the studio for hours. It was like
No, yeah.
it's more like we just if it clicks, it clicks. If it doesn't, then we won't have accomplished anything, and we
Right.
don't like to just like beat it into ourselves. It's like we
Right.
want it to be more of a natural like progression, basically.
Right. No, yeah, it's definitely awesome to have that sync with somebody, and like you mentioned, just pick up on those cues of like, okay, like just even a look, right? You're like, okay, let's try this, let's do this, right? Can you share a memorable experience from the early days with the band?
Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, this is kind of funny, actually. So our first show was in Phoenix, actually, and we were loading up our gear to play. And it's not even a great story. It's just funny because it's our very first show. We had written some stuff. We got it together. We're loading up to go to Phoenix, and we didn't have a van for that band yet. So we're just in our personal vehicles, just throwing the gear in there, driving up to Phoenix. And he has the orange brand like guitar amps and stuff. It's
Okay.
like orange. It's like the big guitar cabinets. He
Right.
has one of those. For some reason, he puts it like dead center in the back of his SUV instead of like laying down or like up against like
It's a
the
special
yeah,
baby.
it's just like in the middle, and we're leaving where we're loading up from,
Mhm.
and he starts to drive, and immediately it just smashes into the SUV like back window, shatters it
Ooh.
everywhere,
Ooh.
and then like we're on like a time crunch, like we have to
Right.
get to Phoenix and play, and so we just had to go with
Just
it. But
yep.
I always laugh when I think about that. It was just like our very first show was just like this, like just like come on, dude, like what are you thinking? Like
Right.
why would you do that? That's not a great story, but it's one I think of a lot. I don't know. We've been a band for over 10 years at this point.
Right.
Played like a lot of shows, so stuff just kind of piles up.
Okay. Any memorable ones that just really stand out then out of, those 10 plus years that you have been together?
Something that's appropriate. Uh,
Doesn't have to be.
I don't know. We played a lot of intense shows that I really liked. There's quite the list of them. Honestly, my favorite experiences in the band though are literally just writing at the practice space. Like me and him getting together and writing the songs, I think is largely like the most memorable experiences are just like it just clicks and we just like pick it up together. I know that's still not a great answer. I'm trying to think of
No,
like
it
a
is for sure.
story.
No, that's
Um,
okay. We can circle back
oh,
around to it too.
nothing,
No,
nothing.
you're
Yeah.
you're good, you're good. Okay, so for someone that's been playing music for, 10, 15 plus years, how would you describe creativity?
Let's see. I don't know. I guess creativity's I've always connected it just with expression. So, um, if I were to give like a full definition of creativity, it would be like expressing yourself or solving problems or making a solution in a unique or like resourceful way. So for me, creativity is a lot like has to do with like originality
Okay.
and making sure kind of it's your own.
Right.
I think for other people that might not be the case, but for me, that was always for creativity. It was trying to get out a feeling that I had, an emotion, a mood, a general vibe, creating sound to do so. And that could be kind of any range of things. And then basically making that happen, it's just the creation part. It's just like trying to craft it, find what you want, um, you know, trying to get inspiration or influence, going from there. And then on more like a general level, like, just solving little problems, like, you know, whether it be stuff at your house that you need to fix, or,
Right.
like, I think there's a lot of creativity that isn't art that we always think of. I think it's like it's it's making a solution, solving something in a unique way, in this like original way, where you're doing something that hasn't been done or isn't being done in
Right.
your like setting, basically.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's a great definition.
Right.
So for someone that has trouble, right, in a world where it's hard to be original,
Mhm.
right? Especially in a world where, hey, literally on your phone you can find millions of creators. How what would you tell somebody that's attempting to be creative but can't just is having trouble doing that?
Phew, that's a tough one. I don't know. I think you gotta think about your motivations. Like, what's your motivation in creating something? Um, you know, is it to get popular? Is it to make money? Is it to express yourself? Um, so I think you kind of got to start there, because that's going to change how you absorb things in a big way. Because there is like all that social media stuff out there,
Right.
which some of it's wonderful, but I mean, it turns there's a lot of copycats, and there always is an art. Like, it's inevitable you're going to take from other art, and I
Right.
don't think that's wrong either. Like, I think that's fine. I've never been one of those people. Like, you're not going to create something that's like truly 100% original. Like, it's
Right.
you bring in all these things, and you kind of go from there. Um, I don't know. It's a tough one.
I mean, I think you gave a great definition even then, right? Just what is your true motivation? And I think, like you said, like usually a lot of times for in today's time, it's okay, how can I get rich quick, right? That's when you kind of, I feel like people will lose that way of, okay, I'm not getting rich, so I'm just gonna stop. Or what can I do to copy, the next person or do what the next person
Yeah,
is
because
doing?
a lot of times being original early on, you're not the moneymaker. Like, usually the most innovative artists don't get their credit till later on. I mean, sometimes they do. There's been plenty of like original, very original artists that like got huge acclaim. But I think if you look back through the history of music, probably some of the earliest makers of different genres didn't make a dime. They didn't get famous while they were doing it. It wasn't until later that we're like, oh, that dude was the one that did it. So I think motivation's a big one. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money off your art. It's never been a motivation of mine. So I can't really like, I don't know, to tell someone who's wanting to try and do both, because I've never really saw the connection that much.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I think there's an element of almost like being selfish with some of the things that I've created over time, where um, like I don't want it to be for everyone and available for everyone to consume so easily. Like,
Okay.
I almost wanted to, because I felt like a lot of music and art was a journey that I went on to find it and absorb it. And I kind of would want the same thing for my own stuff. So if it's like the most easily digestible thing, like, I don't know how truly impactful it is.
Hmm.
That's just my like interpretation. That's how I've kind of always treated whatever art I've done. Was It's not that I don't want people to enjoy it, or I don't want people to have access to it, but that's not the goal.
Right.
Like, if you find it and it resonates with you, amazing. I love it. But if it doesn't, that's for the best, probably. Like, that, okay, it doesn't,
Right.
then it shouldn't. Like, if it doesn't resonate, then it shouldn't be something that you try and, I don't know, like,
For sure.
spend time with.
Right. And I mean, it goes in with the definition that you gave about creativity, about how it's a form of expression. And expression is a very intimate thing. And like you said, like not everybody's going to get it, not everybody's going to like it. And it's coming to that acceptance of like that's okay, right? I think it's easy in today's times where it's just like, okay, everybody has to like me, or what can I do to get everybody to like me, right? And that's where you kind of get more of those copycats, right? Because okay, oh, a million people liked that one thing, let me do it that way. A million people can like what I'm doing too, right? But it's like you said, I think it's important for us to kind of round ourselves and feel like, okay, this is my moment that I am sharing with others, and they can either like it or not. And so based on that, then even with like you said, right, it's hard to be original, right? Especially since we're so far along. We're okay. There's so many different styles of music. Would you say then that there's any styles of music or particular people that really influenced you and your band, or even just your way of expressing when you play?
I mean, a lot over the years for sure. It's like there's certain drummers where this or that. I'll try and be helpful by actually naming maybe some musicians and people rather than just vagueness. Early on when I first started playing drums, Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers, Neil Peart from Rush. Those were two guys who I saw play drums, and I was like, "That's it," kind of thing. And they're two very different drummers, actually. Um, and kind of went from there as I just discovered more music, just kind of pick certain things. I think once I started getting into like punk music is when more of like the ethics and the understanding of my creativity came from. Someone real influential was Henry Rollins, who was one of the singers of Black Flag,
Okay.
which is a old punk band from the 80s. And he spoke a lot about ethics. He wrote a lot of poetry, did like spoken word stuff beyond music. And I think just a lot of his ideas and general vibe was something that like really clicked with. He's a very intense human being. Um, but it was very, to a fault, like almost like I don't want you to like this. I want to push this so much. I want this to be just like, you know, just all out kind of emotion and willing to like, I don't know, like to struggle to make that art, to like not be appreciated. That's okay.
Kind of
Like
just pushing that
it's almost
boundary.
like it's almost wanted. And I never truly like I like when people like my things. Don't get me wrong. I think even he would admit to that. But I think there was definitely a lot of influence from people like that were I don't know, they were very like took a lot of ownership over their creativity and were willing to feel the pain to make it and just really wanted it to be just a really true expression or catharsis for themselves. So I think artists like that connect with in a big way, and then just kind of picking and pulling from there. But I mean, there's been a lot of musicians over the years that
Mhm.
I think more and more it's just I notice little things from different people and kind of like yes, that's it. And so that's where kind of the many of the things I do aren't that original, but because they're pulled from so many different places, and then I put my own spin on it, it can be
Right.
kind of original,
Right.
but yeah.
Okay. Are there any specific themes that you've maybe pulled from other artists that you see reflecting in your own music?
Uh, I think given the style of music that I've played, lyrics that I've written, and just general interests, a lot of it's a reflection of like social injustice. Like that stuff really resonates with me. Um, and then interpersonal struggle for sure. Not that it's like terribly unique. I think everyone goes through it, but dealing with depression and anxiety and frustration and things like that. Those are emotions that I always gravitated towards where I wanted to express and do it in a somewhat positive way,
Mhm.
but still feel like um, that I'm working through those things, that they're being expressed, that it's not just like getting away from them or glossing over them or like pushing beyond them, but more like just like being in that moment. So I think between kind of the interpersonal stuff and then just having a reaction to society, a lot of the stuff that I write about and play music about is little bit like heavier elements of things. Like I wouldn't necessarily call a lot of the art that I've made like positive. I don't know if I call it negative either, but that wasn't really the point. It was a lot more like these things are going on. That makes me feel a certain way. I want to like express that in some sort of way.
Right. Would you say then that was kind of like your coping mechanism then?
Yeah, yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Like I think some young men, they get that anger, they get that rage early on. It's not super uncommon, some more than others. I definitely feel like I had it. Not that I was like a violent person, but
Mm,
it was like needed something that was an outlet
sure.
for that, and music was perfect for that, basically.
For
So,
sure.
when I was younger, I definitely felt like I don't feel it as much now because I have way more tools to cope and deal with things. But when I
Right.
was younger, it was like I would think like if I didn't have drums, like I don't know who I'd be, kind of thing.
Right.
Which is like a lot of people talk that way, which I think it's fair. It's like it probably is that thing that
Right.
keeps you from losing
Keeps
it,
you grounded. Yeah.
like so yeah, absolutely. Like it's a coping tool. It's a I think a lot of art is whether it be entertainment to pull you away, the coping method, or as a way to express and,
Right.
and deal with those things. So yeah, big part of it.
Right. I remember growing up when I was first taking piano. I was homeschooled, so I wasn't really out much, and even then, we weren't really, like, into sports or anything, so we weren't really playing or anything, and so it was just mostly
Yeah.
at home. And so I remember my piano teacher telling me all the time, like, "Use the piano as a punching bag." Obviously not physically punching it,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
slamming the keys, but use that as a way of expression, as a way of coping with, whatever it is that we're going through, and I think, uh, it's important to find that one thing that grounds you, whether that be music, whether that be exercising, whether that be, I don't know, writing, painting,
Mm.
definitely finding that coping skill, especially as, like you said, a young man, like, a lot of times we're just told, deal with it, move on, next thing, and so I'm glad that you were able to find that coping skill and
Yeah,
express yourself through it.
yeah, I like that you said that. And I always feel for people who I see that don't have those things. I'm always just like I feel sad for them almost,
Right.
because I'm like, one, it brings so much joy
Mhm.
ultimately, but it's like you need that thing. Like you gotta have something that
Yeah.
like is your own, that like you're not dependent on other people
Right.
to make happen for you.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, whether it be I play basketball and I can go to the hoop by myself and just shoot a million hoops and kind of be in that space. Like it's like such a rewarding
For
and
sure.
necessary thing, basically.
For sure. For sure. Um How I'm gonna turn our direction a little bit more back to you and your band. How did collaboration work within your band? Were there any particular challenges or strengths that you or, any of your other bandmates brought?
Yeah, I mean, that's always key. As you add more people, you're gonna get more opinions, more thoughts, different styles. Um, so like I said, I was lucky. The kid that I played with, Ryan, I mean, we really clicked musically.
Right,
So collaborating's easy. We play off each other. We both have our skills that kind of jive well with each other. Um, and then as we brought in other musicians, that changes. Like it for sure has. There's been butting of heads. There's been, like I really wish this person played more like this, or no, that idea is terrible. I don't want to do that.
right,
There's definitely those elements, and you have to work through those. Um, I've been fortunate enough to like make it a point to just exclusively play with people I'm friends with, largely, like previously, um, because it takes away a lot of that element, and you're already friends, so it's like you're not going to, you know, I don't know, you're going to treat this person as a
right,
friend, try and work through it. It can be frustrating, but largely, like the goal is still just to create something that moves everyone in the band, and
right,
sometimes it's going to happen, other times it doesn't. We've written so many songs that just nothing ever happened with them,
mhm,
and it was like maybe one of us really liked part of it, and the other just was like, not really feeling it kind of thing. But for the most part, I haven't found that to be like a big issue. I've
Right,
liked collaborating with other people as long as they bring in some ideas, willing to hear your ideas
right.
out. And, I mean, just go from there and try and make it happen.
For sure, and I think that's a key part that I'd like to point out is like just not only just giving your opinion, right, but being able to receive it also, right? That clear communication. Okay, like okay, how can we talk about this or work through this or you know whatever that may be.
Yeah, and it's like, try it. Like,
Mhm.
music's great in that it's really easy to be like, let's try it
Right.
this way. It's not like it's this painful thing. You literally just get to play your instrument for a few more minutes, So it's like, let's try it that way. And if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good. Sometimes you're gonna disappoint someone
Yeah.
by shooting down their idea. Sometimes your idea is gonna get shot down, but yeah, you got to be willing to, like, if the goal is to, if you're a band is to write a good song, then you got to have that you have to have that play.
Right. Is there any advice that you'd give to someone where maybe not just for music, but for any situation where their idea does get, I guess, shot down or maybe not put in the forefront as much as you'd want to? Any just I don't know advice that you'd give to those that just kind of struggle with that?
Just be louder and more
Yeah.
forceful. Um, Learn to communicate. Be Which obviously that's a crazy loaded thing to say, but communication is the key part. Like, if you want to get what you want across and for it to be received by others, you have to learn to talk about it, whether learning how your people communicate or how to best communicate your idea. That's going to be a key thing, because if people don't really understand your idea, it's going to be really hard to convince people that it's the
Right.
thing to do. I don't know. It's a weird one. I've been lucky because a lot of the bands I was in, I was one of the primary songwriters. So it was
Okay.
like, it's kind of necessary that ideas worked a lot.
Right.
But um, seeing other people that I played with who maybe weren't primary songwriters trying to get their ideas in, it was always very necessary for them to really be able to, like, communicate what this will be, how it will help or add to the song. And if they weren't able to do it, like, oftentimes the idea is going to get shot down,
Right.
basically. So I think just learning how to communicate in your craft. So whether it be music or sports or what have you, like, you have to learn the terminology of your craft
Mhm.
and how to express it, basically. So I don't know. I think that'd be one of the things I've learned over the years is like paramount. Like, you have to communicate a lot to get your ideas going.
Right.
Um, if you're not a huge talker, I don't know. I'm not
That's
totally
a tough
sure.
one.
You gotta work.
Right. Um, were there any responsibilities that, as the main songwriter, kind of just fell on you, whether that be, booking out venues, I don't know, in charge of social media, you know,
Um, a lot of my early bands, I did take the lead, usually, like, because I booked shows actually in Tucson for a long time. I put together shows for years. Um, so I was already doing that a couple times a month at least, and a lot of times I was the organizer. A lot of times I was the organizer. Set up band practice time, um, what time we're leaving for the show. So a lot of the early social media stuff back when Facebook was, like, actually still popular. MySpace was a thing. Yeah, so it was like I was in charge of the social media, a lot of the imaging, like, the imagery for the bands. I think for probably half the bands I was in, I came up with the names for the band. And so I was a driving force on a lot of that stuff,
okay,
getting merch printed up. And as I got older, I started to delegate and let other people take charge a little bit more. It's a lot of work to do those things.
right,
It's easy to kind of resent people, but not include them. So it's kind of unfair. It's like, oh, I'm booking all the shows, I'm doing all this, I'm doing all that, but you haven't asked anyone to really do anything else. And it can be like, that can be a really frustrating thing about being in a band is feeling like you're doing all of this stuff and your other bandmates aren't, and it's like a lot of times they're more willing
Mhm.
to participate. So that was definitely a lesson I learned, but definitely like 99% of the shows I've ever played, I was like the lead on like making that happen basically. So
Okay.
yeah, in a big way, I was like one of those things to happen. I really like playing live, so it was like
Right.
if we're gonna do it, then I gotta do
You're
it,
gonna be the one
you
that
know.
takes charge of
So
it, right?
especially as like a band that's not my bands have never been like popular, you know. So it's like if you want something to happen, just, you gotta go
Gotta
do
go out
it
there and do it, right?
basically. Yeah. So
Right, and I know you mentioned, you were the one that was mostly in charge of coming up with band names. Any favorites or any that stand out or
there's been some bad ones throughout the years. My the current band that I'm most focused on is Territory. Um, I like that name a lot. It's named after there's a Brazilian metal band called Sepultura,
okay.
and they have a song called Territory, and the drums on it are sick. It's one of these songs where I heard it and I was just like, that is it right there. Like that is incredible. That's it. And so one, it's just a sick song, and then the name is cool. And so, you know, after you've been in enough bands, because there's so many bands out there, there's no names left basically.
Right,
Like if you search hard enough, there's been four other of this band name that you have or want to use.
right.
So you kind of like compile them and just like have them. And then when we started the band, I was like, this fits, like this works. I'm gonna take that. So that's probably my favorite of the bunch.
Okay, cool. There's a I don't know if you've seen it, it's a show called Parks and Rec,
Hmm.
Parks and Recreation, and there's a band in there, it's called Mouse Rat and, like, Scarecrow Boat, and there's a time where he's like, "Yeah, we're Scarecrow Boat," and then, Mouse Rat, and then Rat Mouse, and then he goes back, "You know what? No, it's Mouse Rat now." And he changes it there on the spot.
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
you had that moment where you're just like, "You know what? This sounds better when I say it out loud."
We never like changed band names during a band, but I've been in bands where I hated the name. I hated the name. Where I was just like, this name sucks. Um, but those were ones usually I didn't name them.
Mm,
So if I chose it, like it was something I kind of liked.
right.
But yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to come up with a good band name anymore. Like if you come up with something,
You better copyright
you
that,
better like hang
everything,
on
huh?
to it because it's gonna be gone. Yeah,
Right.
it's funny because like some of my music's on Spotify, and there'll be artists with the same name, and like sometimes if you don't set it up properly, like both artists will show up on the same profile
Mhm.
basically, and that happened with Territory actually. I think there's actually a Brazilian band called
Territory as
Territory,
well.
and their music is like, and I'm pretty sure people pick up that it's not us,
Mhm.
like this other record, because it sounds totally different and the artwork looks very different. But I'm always like, I hope people think that's
Right,
us because I don't think they're very good.
right.
But yeah, it's kind of funny because it's like, yeah, there's probably been 15 territories in the last 30 years. So yeah, yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah,
Sure,
the bad band music is fun to think of too. There's a lot of them.
I'm sure. Yeah. Is there any big, band moments, like highlights or achievements that, you know, just really stand out to you?
I mean, putting out actual records is a huge thing. It's a lot of work. Territory put out a full length 12-inch vinyl record, which yeah, I'm super proud of that. You know, one, you have to write all the music,
Mhm,
you have to record all of it, you have to get everything together. Maybe get in this case, we had a record label release it, organize everything. You know, get it, start playing shows, start selling it to people. So definitely every record I've ever put out has been like it's a huge achievement. I mean,
sure.
that and just playing live. You know, I can't say there's any like one like, we played this show or played this place that was like that was our goal. I don't think we ever really thought that far ahead, but putting out a record is, I mean, it's a lot of work. Really cool. It's exciting. It's like here you can hold this thing.
Right.
Um, you know, I hope newer bands keep putting out physical records because it's cool to have music on Apple Music or whatever, but like there's really nothing like
Having a tangible
getting a
thing, yeah,
record from a plant, like pulling it open for the first time, and it's like this is yours, your name's on it. Like, yeah, it's huge. That's a really cool feeling.
for sure.
I did a CD in high school. That was like the first thing I ever did was a CD. And I was like a sophomore in high school, and it was like, we have a CD,
Right.
and it was like it was wild. And then over time, like vinyl became a little bit cooler,
Mm,
so
mhm.
done more vinyl at this point than anything. But yeah, yeah, putting out physical records is cool.
Yeah, for sure. Having that tangible thing definitely makes a huge difference. Like
Yeah,
just even
yeah,
like you said, just I wrote this. This is me. This is my group. This is what we completed together. Do you think it would be good to have that for any like new bands or any new musicians, just to have that kind of like almost like a milestone?
yeah, yeah. I think so. I mean, it's something like there's not that many possessions of mine that I'm like really like, like I don't know. It's an extreme thing, but like if there's a house fire, it's like there's not a lot of stuff in my house where I'm gonna be like devastated
Right.
by it. But like I have some records of bands that that were mine, and like those are prized possessions.
Right.
Like
Right.
I don't know. How could you not be proud of it? I
Right.
mean, of course, people release music they don't like, but I mean, that's a pretty big achievement. So I think if you're doing something where you can get a physical product, you should.
Right. For sure. For those that are beginning to um, kind of just begin a band or just really get out there, do you have any advice, any tips to for them?
Mm, kind of goes back to motivation. Like at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun.
Right.
Like if you're doing a band, unless it's exclusively for like emotional catharsis, which can be a torturous process, if you're playing with your friends, it should be fun.
For
And
sure.
if it's not fun, you shouldn't do it anymore. It's like I think, and just keep that in mind. Like this is cool. This is a thing that you chose to do, and like don't set expectations for it. Don't like, oh, I want to be big. I want to do this. Just write the first song, have the first band practice, play the first show. Like I think it's don't get ahead of yourself. I mean, you're gonna dream about those things and talk about them. Don't get me wrong, and you should, but I don't think that should be the goal. I think just playing music with your friends should be the number one goal. Making something you like, actually, I'll take that back.
Okay.
Focus on making something that you like. Um, I think a lot of the music I've made, I like to listen to. I don't sit and listen to my own bands a lot, but like that's key. Like if I don't want to listen to it, why am I making it? Like it would seem strange to me. So it's like that should be the goal. If you're playing in a band, the goal should be write something that you would want to listen to that you feel like encapsulates like you or your friends, and just have fun. Like it's supposed to be fun to
Right.
do these things. It's a recreational thing.
Right.
Like
Right.
you're not like being forced to play in a band. So
Right.
um,
Are there any obstacles that you've come across during these years that you've been playing music that just maybe not pushed you away from playing music ever again, but just kind of was just a stumbling block and,
money,
money?
money. Oh, yeah. I mean, money was always a thing. Like like you're in high school playing in bands, like just working some part time hourly, minimum wage job, like having musical equipment, paying
Mhm.
for recording, like buying gas to drive a couple hours
Right.
away. Like, money was always tight. That was definitely a limiter, had we made more money, we would have done more touring. Like, it's just the reality of it. And if I made more money from art, I would spend more time making art essentially. So
Right.
it's sad, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
a
s
huge limiter. Beyond that, it was like there's always other stuff you're doing and other things going on in your life that don't always lend itself to you know you doing all of these things. You have relationships. I was going to college and went to school, so I was trying to just like fit everything in. So that's a challenge. And then as I've gotten older, it's way harder. It's like to schedule band practice now is like it's like all right, like we've all got all these different responsibilities. It's like own homes, have like stuff like that. It's like okay, like before it was just like assumed, like all right, when we get out of work, we're just gonna practice. Like
Mhm.
we could do it any day of the week, basically, and we'll make it happen. But yeah, mostly money and time. I mean, I think that's a lot of hobbies, unfortunately. But
For sure, for sure. Um, how did you prepare for, I guess, live performances? Like, did you have any system down where it's like, okay, no, we have to do this? Did you have maybe like, you know, how some athletes will have kind of like a just a what's the word? Just something that they would do before every match,
like
right?
a
Or before
routine
every,
or
yeah, just anything like
no,
that. No.
not really. Drumming. Maybe I'd warm up like a little bit, but usually not.
Okay.
Um, I didn't get I didn't get nervous ever really
Okay.
playing live. Um, Maybe like the first couple shows, just not wanting to mess up, but it wasn't like because there were people out there. It was just like it's just being a newer musician. Like
Mhm.
you mess up a lot. Like I've messed up a million songs and just like totally like just like blew it.
Yeah.
Like it's happened, but I don't think so. Honestly, I know that's a lot of people do, but I can't really say that I would have like a whole routine or anything like that. A lot of times it was like I was excited to get up there and just hit it. Like I was ready basically. So no real routine.
For sure. Was there any, or what would you say is the band's sound or style? And then how has that evolved? I guess even just for you, right? Since you have been in multiple bands, how's that evolved from when you first started till now?
Um, I mean, like I've said, I played like slower, more instrumental style rock stuff to death metal. So it's a pretty wide range of sound. I've always liked having kind of both sides. Like I've liked having softer music with actual singing
Mhm.
and been able to have that side, and then also really hyper aggressive stuff that's very extreme. So I think pretty early on, I realized that I liked having both because people are complex. You don't always have one emotion at all times. So there's an opportunity to like occupy like both of those things. As far as like sound evolving, I think if people listen to it, on first listen, you're not going to hear like a lot of the evolution to a degree, unless you're really familiar with that style of music. You know, every record is pretty different, different goals, different influences. So I think it just kind of goes around. I don't think there's any like, um, it's not like I don't know, I'm trying to like a staircase. You're
Mm.
not like
Yeah.
there's not like a straight like linear progression. It
Right.
kind of just goes where it goes.
Right.
So some bands like I don't know, I've written music later on in the band that I'm like, this isn't very good, or early stuff is better.
Mm.
Like so it just kind of depends. Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten better as a songwriter,
Okay.
but there's stuff that I wrote early on that I was like, I love that. That's great. So I
Right.
don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
Right. Right. I think a lot of people would obviously relate, but also say like, no, like I don't know, like my early stuff compared to now is just like, oof, why did I write that? Why would I do that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I think because I've had a lot of different bands with different members, it's
Mhm.
very time and place. If it had been like the same members for this whole time, I think it would probably feel very much like that. Like, ooh, this early stuff is bad, but jumped around a lot. So it was like there was some songs I wrote when I was 17. I'm like, this is sick. Like I still like this.
Right.
And then there were songs that I wrote a couple years ago where I was like, this is garbage. Like this is not good. So yeah, there's no like direct line for that stuff. I mean, you get hyped on your newest material,
Right.
like, and you should be like
Right.
when you write something new and you like it, you should be like, this is the best stuff we've ever done,
Mhm,
kind of thing.
mhm.
But I think on reflection, it might not always be the case.
Right. Right, yeah. If there's one lesson you've learned from your time with your bands, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, it's not something like that was like there was a problem and I learned the solution to it. But I think it's just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Like I've gone through periods where there was a lull, and whenever I look back, I like regret those periods. And
Mm,
sometimes they happen for good reasons, and sometimes for not very good reasons. But I've never I've never gone through an active period of making music and been like, oh, I wish I hadn't have done that.
mhm,
It's like always like I wish I would have done a little bit more. So like give it the time. Like put the energy in. It's worth it. Like, it was always worth it for me at least. Like I don't regret a single minute of playing the music. So I think that's a lesson that if you enjoy it, you're allowed to express yourself, just keep doing it.
right.
Like make it happen to keep doing it.
Yeah. I think this is a very valuable lesson of, like, you know, that's how you improve, right? Just even if it's not something that you absolutely like or love, or whatever that style is at that point, right? The fact is, we're humans and we're constantly growing. So you're always gonna have to improve at some point. I like what you said, just having that mindset of, okay, like, just keep doing it, right? Especially if it's something that you love, just keep doing it, keep trying, keep improving, keep adding something on, right? Or trying
Mhm.
something different. Definitely, it's something that I think a lot of people today have kind of lost that mindset.
Yeah, it's like they want to put a finish line on stuff,
Mhm.
and there isn't one.
Right.
Like, like for some people, I'm an older musician. For me, I'm like, this doesn't feel that way at all. And it's like, why would I stop? There's nothing actually preventing me from doing it. So just keep doing it.
Right.
I don't know. It's just like, what else is there?
Right.
Like, it's like, yeah, I'm going to be working. There's certain things that you just have to do. But like, if you've started to create stuff that you enjoy, like just keep doing it as long as you can. I think anyway.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, Sam, as we're closing out, tell everybody that's listening, what's the future for the band? What do you have in store?
Well, we're writing again. We haven't performed live since 2018, so it's been a while. Um, and we started kind of getting the band back together, kind of thing, which is fun. We got some new members, some new blood, writing new songs. Next year, start playing live again, put out another record. Doing the band stuff
Right.
basically, but it's exciting because it's been a little while. So yeah, just hitting it again.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sam, for joining us at the Prolific Creations podcast, and we hope to see you and support you in any way that we can.